No, I give it back to you.
Sorry about that. No problem.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this November 6th board meeting, election night. As a matter of fact, one of our student representatives is working the polling places. That better?
Thank you.
The voting, she's helping with the voting right now, so that's fantastic. And Jonathan, welcome. Well, Jonathan, are you prepared to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, let's do that.
We rise, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to compliment everybody on that. That's about the best we've ever done that. It's not like we've been practicing it or something. I think it was Jonathan, his leading that. That's a great job. All right, thank you very much. Okay, report out of closed session. Mr. Heverly motioned, Dr. Talkin seconded, and the board approved the appointment of Mary Lisa Lopez as Director of Child Development, School Readiness, and Preschool Services, effective date to be determined by the following vote, 7-0. And that was the only action taken in closed session. Here you go. Okay, first up on the agenda, recognition of the California State School Employees Association Boss of the Year Award. Deborah.
Yeah, no, not me. It's going to be Marvel.
Well, your name is on here. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Come on.
Good evening. My name is Marvel Bristow. I'm second vice president of CSEA, and we're here to recognize an outstanding boss. Every year we choose somebody. Good evening, President Neely, Dr. Washer, board. I just have a little something I want to read. And does everyone know who Boss of the Year is yet?
No.
Oh, good. As I read this, you're going to figure it out on my first paragraph. Okay? Here it goes. Yesterday was a marvelous Monday. Today is a terrific Tuesday. Tomorrow will be a wonderful Wednesday. Then we'll come to a thrilling Thursday and a fantastic Friday. How are you today? Good to see you. Job well done. These are just a few words that you hear all the time from Mr. Melandros. Mr. Melandros is inspiring, supportive, encouraging, fun, and a motivator. He values all ideas and suggestions. He respects everyone, and in return is highly respected by everyone. He makes sure everyone has good working conditions to ensure great success for you, Lodi Unified School District. As the years pass, I hope everyone remembers CSEA Boss of the Year for 2018. The example he led and the joy he brings to everyone he works with. Remember, we are here to serve all the children. May we all live with this in mind, because Mr. Melandros lives this every day in hopes to inspire others to serve our children, which is tomorrow's future. Thank you, Mr. Melandros, for all your support from CSEA Chapter 77. It's not all about being easy, it's about being right.
I get to say, I get
You
to
get to
speak.
say-
When did you ever not?
Good evening, Mr. Neely, Dr. Washer, members of the board. It truly is an honor and a privilege to accept this award. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of CSEA members throughout the years, and they've trained me well, those of you who I've worked with. Thank you. And especially the Assessment Research and Evaluation Department who nominated me. We're not a department, we really are a family. And I think that this award really reflects them more than it does me. Every day when I come to work, I think work is a misnomer because we have such a good time. You still have to pay me, but it doesn't feel like work. And I'm just very pleased to receive this award from individuals who I have the highest respect for. So thank you very much.
Before you leave, since it doesn't feel like work, then we're going to take it you're not going to be retiring soon? You're just going to hang around with us?
For a while, yes, sir.
Congratulations, Greg.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay. Next on the agenda item is a report from the Science and Instructional Materials Advisory Committee update. Mr. Kowski. And you're going to bring
I am bringing your crew with me.
crew, and then we're going to go through the introductions with your crew, right?
Yes. we
All
are.
right. Feel free to place yourself.
I'm going to sit off to the side. President Neely, members of the board, I think we all have S's on the end of our names today. And Dr. Washer, we'd like to come to you tonight to give you an update on where we're at with the Science Instructional Materials Committee. I'd like to introduce members of the committee. At the far my right is Michael Heberly. Sandy Starr comes next. I know it was Nicole Dickerson, but I was going to change your name. But Nicole Dickerson from Vinewood School. You all know our science coach, Shirley Cunningham, and our other lady here is Rachel Flanagan. See how I stuttered out tonight? I must be extremely nervous or something. So I'm going to turn it over to Shirley, where we have, I think, 6 slides or something to share with you. We'll do that very quickly, and then we'll throw it open for questions.
So the first slide here shows you the elementary school teacher committee members. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. These are our middle school committee members. We have some representation from every middle school, including Elkhorn. And these are our high school, these are our high school committee members. Can you go back one slide, please? The names that you see in bold are teachers that were part of a science committee. We have, if you go back one more slide, I apologize. So Nicole Dickinson, Danielle Kendall, Cheryl Houston were part of the middle school science committee. And then the next slide. Then we have Todd DeGrandmont, Melissa Turner, Sarah Marias, Alethea Langone, Lisa Stewart, Sylvia Klein. We're all part of the high school science committee that met for the last couple years, talking about the NGSS and which course model they would be recommending for high school to follow. Next slide. These are our first 3 meetings. We have concluded the first 2 meetings. The first meeting we developed a district lens or profile. The second meeting we continued that district lens and then reviewed rubrics that we would use to judge the curriculum materials that were presented to the teachers. And we took a little bit of a dive into the NGSS and the California Science Framework. Our third meeting was today, which was with our 9th through 12th grade science teachers only. We looked at some instructional materials from publishers, as well as created a draft high school course model that needs to go back to the 9-12 science teachers for feedback. So there was no recommendation today, which is listed at the bottom. Next slide. Meeting number 4 will be Monday, November 26th. This will be held at the County Office of Education, and this will be our Publishers Fair. The bulk of the publishers will be K-8. We do have a few 9-12 publishers that will be showing up. So we'll be asking the K-12 all teachers to attend if they're able to. We have a pre-screen rubric that we'll be using to narrow down the available materials to the top 2 to 3 publishers. And then we have a meeting scheduled for December 11th, where the teachers will listen to the top 2 to 3 publishers. They'll do a paper screen, which is a deeper dive into each of the publishers to decide if they have a top publisher that they would like to recommend. If there's a tie among 2 publishers, there will be a pilot for each publisher will be completed. There'll be mini pilots, they're listed, the dates are listed there. If we have to do a pilot, then there will be a 6th meeting, which would be held February 12th, where we would find a final recommendation from the pilot and have materials ordered by March 1st so that we can get them in by the end of the school year so that teachers will be able to be trained in June and July.
Can we talk about this portion of it
Whatever you'd like
right
to
now? Okay, before we go on to anything else. When we did the social science adoption, I mentioned back then that I was fairly upset with the way that the manufacturers were treating us on that. It's unacceptable. When we started talking about professional development, they said, oh no, you can't tape the professional development. You know, you're going to have to call us back out and pay us to come do it again. And I think one of the problems is that we have no bargaining power. Once we say, we can't bargain on the cost of the material. Is that correct?
That is
Mr. Cobb?
correct.
That's correct. That's given to the state, so that's set. But what we can bargain on is the support. Now, we should never do business with a company who's not going to allow us to, and help us develop professional development. We should have been able to take that. We should be able to show it to teachers at whatever times that they're available for them to review. People are going to miss training, you know, so we ought to be able to have the materials readily available so that they can review it on their own if they'd like. That can be part of professional development. But we can't do that if we pick one curriculum, one set to propose, because they know when you go to them and say, okay, we picked you. Well, now they don't have to negotiate with us. But let's face it, there are some really good curriculums out there, more than just one. So if we come up with 2, maybe 3 that are all acceptable, and turn these over to Mr. Khan and let him negotiate these things and get us the best possible deal. Somebody says, oh no, you can't take our professional development. We tell them, thank you very much. You can find another school district. There's 30,000 students here. We'll go someplace else who wants to support us. Now, so that's what I'd like to see us get to. I mean, that's just a thought here, all right? I mean, well, because the bottom line is, once you say, we're going to take you, right, it's over. They start, handing out commission checks at that point. And believe me, I used to be in sales for corporate sales. That's what happens. So can we talk about that a little bit? Can we talk about the ability maybe to say, hey, you know what? We like these 3. Because here's my point. We all know that some curriculums do really well in this area, and then another one will do really well in this area, right? They all have features you like, and some have features you don't like. You like this feature better, and we come down to one thing. But I'm saying that we don't have to come down to one thing. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start first, and then I think Ms. Starr has something she'd like to say. Generally, when we narrow it down to 2 or 3 publishers directly after a publisher's fair, we don't have any clue of really how those publishers are going to be vetted. In most cases, one publisher will meet the requirements of the district lens because we really want the materials to be useful for our teachers, but also for our students. So if they are close, I don't believe anybody would have a problem if everybody was equal or within points. But if there's somebody that garnered 90 points and the next person garnered 60, I think people would have an issue. But that's my comment, that's my opinion.
Mr. Maley and board, Sandy Starr, Tokay High School. I just wanted to add a little bit with science. I haven't been through the other subject adoptions, but science is at a really pivotal new place right now with the standards. And so textbook publishers are kind of feeling their way to what we're going to choose within our district and the pathways we're going to be on. So it may not be that there's 3 or 4 books that are going to cover the same curriculum that's going to fit our population here the best. It may be that there is 1 or 2 or maybe just 1 that's really going to fit the pathways that we're working with that's going to support the children in our communities. And so I know looking at books even today, there were 3 or 4 biology books and they were all night and day. And depending on what our course curriculum will be, there's really maybe 1 or 2, if we're lucky, that would fit that. So I know, I'm all for the best bargain and the best deal because we want that support for our teachers with the curriculum and the textbooks also. It just may not be that easy with where science is right now in the adoption process. And ideally we could wait a couple more years till all of these kinks are worked out in the textbooks and such, but we are working with textbooks from 2008 and our technology unit is like our biology history unit right now. So we do need to move forward and kind of keep pushing and see do the best that we can do with the courses and the new curriculum and everything. So just my take.
Mr. President.
Sir.
I like that idea where we kind of get back to the publishers to kind of let them know, okay, you're in the semifinals of our choice. What can you do for us? And I think at that point, not to really slow anything down, but then at that point, then they might throw some chips our way. And we just kind of keep it close to our chest as to who we prefer. You will know. But we don't want the publishers to know because what we found on the last adoption is there were 2 components. One was professional development, where they just basically said, you want some, you pay for it. So, we just spent millions of dollars on your stuff. You can't even talk to us without us paying. And the other part was supporting technology that goes along with the textbook. you know, and I'm sure you'll all look at that too, because that's just now part of what we do. And that's all I was thinking about this, is that not to delay anything, but at a certain point when we're funneling down, make a contact to them and say, like I said, semifinals, what can you do? And that's all that is. So, because like I worked in government, and I know that there are some things that once they get used to dealing with your company, it's easier to deal with them, and all of a sudden the prices kind of move. And they're not very customer service. But if there's competition, then they...
And, you know, I think I can say for everybody here, we don't want to negotiate anything, right? We just want to look at materials and make a decision. So negotiations are fine for us off the table.
These folks are not going to be the negotiators. That would fall with somebody else. You guys have enough to do getting us pathways and curriculum and textbooks and that kind of thing. And then I'm saying an internal system that you get your information known to, well, he mentioned Mr. Khan, whoever. And at that point, then they can make publisher contact and say, okay, semifinals, what can you do? Just a thought. And if they say nothing, well, at least we asked. But if we don't ask, we don't get. That's the only one.
Sir.
We do have a procedure as to selecting these publishers, don't we? I mean, there has to be some type of itinerary or agenda that you go that this is what we're going to select. This is what we really like. Then the publishers that you select, the first or three or second, then you put out the information out there. You do have that, don't you?
Yes. The long answer is we start K-8 by the recommended list that have been approved by the California Department of Education that meet the requirements for NGSS standards. 9-12 is a whole different ballgame. There is no recommended list. But yes, we start with that recommended list. That's what Shirley and the rest of them were talking about, building the district lens, looking at our students, looking at the achievement of our students, looking at the teachers, the age of the teachers. We build a criteria that we measure those programs about and how they will meet our new teachers, supporting our new teachers, supporting our veteran teachers, supporting our students. That criteria, that evaluation form is what we use to narrow the curriculums down.
Very good. Thank you.
Dr. Washer, what's your thoughts on this?
I think that it might be different with each adoption process depending on what has been approved by the state and where we are and what we're looking for as a district. So I would prefer a flexible approach depending on the circumstances. I do like the concept of having options, especially the ability to talk to publishers and say, we're thinking about you seriously, what can you offer, or here are some things that we would like. Would you be able to meet those? I do think that there's power in that, rather than having one final and then going with it and then finding out that there are things lacking or things that we wished we could have had that we didn't. So I do like the concept of having a bank as much as possible of options and going to the publishers and then finding out, you know, asking those critical questions and then determining who can give us the best service for the dollar. So I do like that concept. I would hope that maybe we could be a little flexible with how we approach it.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Ms. Cassie.
So you all just saw the books for the first time, or all the materials today?
No, it was just we had some 9-12 science materials that Gabby Vasquez had gathered up for us because we weren't sure how many publishers would be at the Publishers Fair for 9-12. Other than that, November 26th at the county office, we'll have about 17 publishers to look at.
Oh, I see, yes. And is that the entirety of what's available pretty much will be there?
For K-8 that's been approved by the state of California, yes. For 9-12, it's a handful of what's out there. It's really difficult to kind of gather up the 9-12 materials.
Yeah. And there's,
Can you go to the next slide? So this is a list of publishers K-12, and so they're separated into different categories. You will see some of the publishers repeated because they offer the different grade level curriculums. Most of these publishers will be at the county office on November 26th.
Okay. And is this, I mean, they're all basically breaking new ground?
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, that makes it very dicey and more difficult, obviously. Yeah. And will, I know I'm so, your committee is so exemplary because you're involving so many people in all different grade levels. Will all those individuals be involved in looking at the materials?
Yes, as long as they're able to make it that day, that they don't have a prior commitment or can't leave their classrooms, then yes.
Yeah, excellent, thank you.
Mr. Neely, if I understand your concept correctly, so looking at this, perhaps a committee could eliminate what is unacceptable and present a list that would work, an acceptable list,
Right.
and then whether it be Mr. Connor or somebody else could go from there. Is that
Sure.
kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I want to add just one more thing to this too. I don't think anybody will argue with the point that the most important thing in that classroom, the most important teaching element in that classroom is the teacher. It's not any books you got, it's none of that. It's the teacher. And so what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that that teacher is as well trained as possible. And that's where we've got to involve these publishers. They're the ones who can train us the best to use that equipment. So they've got to give us everything. And it's not just for the teachers that we've got now. It's for other. When I first went into a classroom, I got a teacher's manual. That's it for English language arts. And nobody told me anything about it. And I sat there and I worked on it. I took that thing home and worked, and so I worked on that. And then, about 2 months later, the principal comes in and she says, well, why aren't you using the other material? I'm like, well, nobody even told me there was any other material. There's none in this room. I didn't say it like that. I was very nice about it, all right? But that was the point. I didn't know. So it's not just for the teachers that we have right now that are going to be using this. We don't need professional development, the 2 months during summer and one break. We need professional development for all the new teachers that are going to come on. And we've got to negotiate with these publishers because they don't want to give it to us. Okay, I'll tell you that right. They want to sell us the equipment and be done with us. That's a typical corporate salesperson.
They will provide professional development depending on the amount of, we get 60 sessions of professional development or some type of thing. That can last for the whole entire process of the life of the adoption. One of the things that the professional development group has started to do is develop videos, short videos for teachers to access anytime, because who better to help teachers understand their program than teachers? Because I know that first professional development is really just a general overview of the book. All of these people over here know their content. I believe Mike knows his content and Sandy knows her content. They're not developing them professionally as scientists and science teachers. They're showing them the use of the software or the materials. And I think that our teachers can develop those videos, and we have begun to do that any teacher can use during their orientation or throughout the year.
How's that working on our social sciences?
I believe that Charles has those, some of them up and running already. That was our plan to do that. I have not been out there to check it. We're working with science right now, but that was our plan to do that. So I'd have to talk to the technology coaches to see how they're doing with those. Because that makes, in my opinion, that makes a lot of sense for our teachers to tell people,
sure,
future
it does.
teachers, because Lodi does things the Lodi way, which is not always the same as the Stockton or the Lincoln way.
No, but
We
if
found
can-
that out today,
If we
so.
can get the materials provided by the manufacturer though, it'll make the stuff that we make a lot easier. When I make presentations, I go see what's already been made and I take that.
Yes.
So if we can get more, I don't know, okay, I'm not gonna beat this dead horse anymore. But the point is that we can get more. But you can't get more unless you ask for it. Now, you got a lever right now. The lever is millions of dollars that we're gonna spend. As soon as you spend those millions of dollars, that lever's gone.
We also had a concern today about not only the textbooks, but all of the materials beyond the textbooks that
Right.
high school teachers need to run their labs and to do all of that, which, you know, just mentioning the idea that some of them would prefer not such an expensive book if we could guarantee that they got all the materials. We have no clue at this point what the book and all the, you know, the beakers and the weights and all those things are going to cost for high school, because it's serious business at high school versus elementary. I shouldn't have said it that way. Elementary is important, but there are specialties in high school.
There's even more in
Yeah.
in elementary now, that even in high school, we have at least access to a lot of that equipment now, and elementary will actually probably need even more of that,
Yeah.
that they don't have now, that they will need
Okay.
for the new standards.
And that is the idea, so that when they come to high school, they have a little bit better foundation than what we've been seeing the last few years. They need science coming with that.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll come back to the audience for more comments. Did you have something else?
I did. I greatly appreciate the work that you all are doing, and if you look at the list of individuals that we have, you know, we really have the best and the brightest working on this. And I think this is what we tasked you all to do, is something we're going to be talking about later in the meeting, which is what is the goal for this district? And the district isn't to find satisfactory, the district is to find the best. And we want you to find the best curriculum for our students, the best curriculum for our teachers, and the best curriculum for Lodi Unified. And I don't see us shortchanging this in any other way. That is what we're asking you to do. Now, you're going to make a recommendation to us, and you know, ultimately, we're going to carry it out or not carry it out, or the dealing will be done. But I don't want to change your mission at all. Your mission is to do exactly what you're doing, is to go through these, pilot program these, and come back and give advice to us on what we should do, and find the best. And I think that's what you're trying to do. I want you to keep doing that, and that's my 2 cents.
So you're saying they should narrow it down to just one?
I'm saying that they have an obligation as their advisory committee, and that's our policy and procedures, is to make a recommendation to us. Now, if the recommendation is 2, and they don't care between the 2, then we negotiate. But I don't want them to say, hey, these 5 are satisfactory and we're going to be happy with it, because that's not what our district wants to do. What we want to do is we want to have one that the teachers are excited about using, that the kids are going to learn well with, and that we're going to benefit the whole district. We just don't want to put something in that's, no one wants to eat satisfactory. I mean, everyone wants to eat spectacular. And that's what I want you all to do, is come back and recommend spectacular to us.
But I guess, Mr. Fraser, my point is that, first of all, there's a list up there of K-5 science. And there's 6-8 over there. That's quite a list of things that have been approved by the state. I think that there are probably at least 2 of those, or 3 maybe, out of each list that would work very well. There may be one that works great, but if we don't train the teachers, not just the teachers we have now, but future teachers as well, on how to use it, then it's useless. So when we say select the right curriculum, I think that includes everything. It's a holistic approach, not just the book itself, not just the handouts, but the entire package that goes on. I think that's where we should get to. And it is a little bit of a change. In the past, we haven't done this. Well, it was evident by what happened to us on the social sciences when it was said that, no, we're not going to allow you to take training. You know, we're not going to be doing any training. That's not That's not right.
And I don't know if it's this committee's job to determine the best deal.
Right,
I think
it's not. It's not.
Their job to figure out the best curriculums that would be satisfactory or would be spectacular for our kids and advise us. And then for us to carry out the execution of that.
Exactly. And if we had a couple of choices, we might be able to make a better package.
But what if they find one clear leader? Why are we going to force them to recommend 3 choices?
We're not going to force them to recommend 3 choices. That's not my point.
And that's my point also. My point is we want them to do what they're going to do, which is make a recommendation to us.
If we don't,
and they make that recommendation long before we enter into contracts or negotiations, they just come forward and they say they like the Smith company, the Acme company for this. And then we go forward with this, and then we investigate whether there's no difference between the Smith or the Jones company, or they say we don't care between the Smith and Jones, and then we take it back to the publishers and say, what are you going to do for us? But if there's one clear leader, I don't want them to come in and give us substandard.
But if we don't talk about exactly what we're doing right now, then they will do what they've done in the past, which is what we've told them to do, and there's no fault of theirs, just to pick what they feel is the best. And sometimes that's real close. And so if it's real close, then why don't we go for an entire package?
And I think we can do that. I still think it's their obligation, though, to simply give us what they believe the teachers are in support of and what the students are going to best respond to based upon their training experiences.
And my point is that there's probably more than one.
And there may be. But
So
we don't
that's what I
know.
want to
I
release them.
think that is their decision to say.
And that's fine, and I want to release them from the obligation of coming up with one. Because right now, in the past, also, we have been under the impression.
And I have no
that
problems
they,
with that.
Please.
I'm
Let me finish, please. That they have to pick one. And I'm just saying that we can do better than that.
And I have no problems with that.
Okay.
I think the point is that they have to let us know what they support. And that's what their expertise is. Our expertise is ultimately approving it or not, or disapproving it, or going in a different direction because of our obligation to the district.
All right, well, we'll disagree on that. Okay, you can go ahead and finish up your, and then we'll bring it back to the audience for, yeah, one more slide.
One more slide. Just a little information about the selection process, and the toolkit that we're using is called Next Gen Time. It was created in conjunction with K-12 Alliance, BSCS, and Achieve, Inc. It was recommended by the San Joaquin County Office of Education to use. It has 5 phases. The prepare phase, where we went through and we created our district lens and our goals, and then we have a pre-screen, which is a very quick minimum question rubric that the teachers will go through at the publishers fair to narrow down to the top 2 to 3 publishers, and then we have a paper screen that's a deeper dive, and then a pilot if necessary. An analogy to this would be something like if you were putting together an NBA team or NFL team and you scout for some of the players that you would like to try out, that would be our pre-screen. And then that paper screen is when you actually bring those players in and you have them try out for you on the field to see what they really have to offer. And so this, again, was recommended by the County Office of Education. And the next slide.
That's it. Thank you guys very much. We'll bring it back to the board. Any questions, comments from the public?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me present. I'm Mrs. Lennon Wilkins. I am a science teacher, 8th grade at Marana Middle School, and I'm also on the Curriculum Council, so their recommendations will also go to the Curriculum Council. I am just sort of concerned with some of the comments that went through that the people who are donating their time and their talent to this committee, that their recommendations not be diluted. And we talk in this district right now that our goal is to have our children reading literate by 2nd grade. I want them to be science and STEM literate starting in kindergarten. And that's what one of the things that the next generation science standards can do. And it is evolving. One thing I hate about textbooks is that it ties us down for a certain number of years because we only do textbook adoptions every so often. The last time we did it was, 10 years ago, and I was on that committee for the science textbook. So we have to really be forward thinking in what we do with our science curriculum. And as Lisa Katowski so eloquently stated, we also have to think about how is this going to impact down into elementary school and making sure those elementary school students have what they need to be science literate, STEM literate, as they progress through elementary to middle to high school. So please, when you're talking about negotiating with publishers, that is absolutely important. I spent 20 years in the corporate world. I did sales. I did investor relations even, so to talk about, I've been on both sides of that coin, but we have to really be forward thinking. I understand training is important for our teachers, but we really, really, really have to think about what's the goal of our selection committee, what's the goal, and how they are keeping in the forefront the goals of our students and this district. So I'm just afraid that it might be diluted if all we're looking at is what is the best deal we're going to get out of a publisher. So please keep that in mind. That's my only comment. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Good evening, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer, and Science Committee. Thank you, Science Committee that's represented here, and if our tech person could go back all the way to the beginning and look at all of those names of all of those teachers that have committed extra time and thought to this process, both the work they've already done in preparing for this, but the work that they will continue to do before curriculum is brought to you and bought for the students of this district. We do, Mr. Nava, have board policy on how curriculum is adopted in that process, and has gone through some changes over time. I do appreciate the board's concern and caution as we go forward with both the PD piece, and I look forward to, I have not heard of any of our social studies PD stuff being filmed and out there. I appreciate your comments about new teachers. I was at a site yesterday and the new teacher said, but I haven't been trained on any of this material. And so as a late hire teacher, it's hard to get off and running and have somebody there to walk you through that process. So that is a concern going forward. I would just caution that as we go forward, we also look at things that are complete before purchase.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else? Any other comments? I'm sorry.
I just want to say that I'm Nicole Dickinson. Hello, board. I'm really impressed with certain aspects of how Lodi Unified does things. A publisher's job is to publish material, not to train a teacher in their content-specific area. And as a 6th grade teacher, who at one point was new to this district, there were things I had never seen. I had never seen science taught in a classroom. I was in 5th grade at the time. And what did I do? I called up the science coach, and he came right over, and he helped me, and he supported me. And as a language arts teacher, and a history teacher, and a science teacher, and all of the above teacher, you've set up a very nice support system for us. And I really do appreciate that there are all these people that we have who are experts in their field. Publishers are not experts in their field, and they can't always help us be experts in our field, but we do have that set up here. And I know that Making Sense of Science is now supported by the district, and that is going to be a huge revolution in teacher content area as we move forward and teachers can actually go in and be taught content, not how to teach from a curriculum because it changes every few years. We have different textbooks, but the financial support for that is amazing. And I took the class from Charlie over the summer. I'm now getting trained on the other end of it, and it's really powerful for teachers to get the content support they need from teachers who are content knowledgeable. I wouldn't look to a publisher to teach me about the content. I want to know from the publisher what their intention for the book might be, and then me as the educator, I'm going to now use it in the best way that I know how and incorporate it in that way. And so I just want to say that we do in this district, we are doing a good job of that. We do have support, whether we're all using it or accessing it as much as we should. I don't know. But I do know that it's there, and it's not always a publisher's job. They want to make money and they want to sell us their stuff, and they should be able to show us how to use their stuff, but it's up to us to decide what's best for our kids. And that's kind of the lens that I've taken on several of these types of adoption committees. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the board? Yeah, Bonnie, go ahead.
I feel very strongly about what I'm going to say, and that is that your committee members, including all of you, are the experts in this area. And I am looking at, could we go to slide 6? Thank you. I'm looking at some pivotal dates coming up, obviously, and you've listed them here for us, that November 26th, the Publisher Fair, and then your own meeting that you're going to have. So I feel that at this point, you are the experts. You need to go and see what there is to see and delve into it and see for yourself the possible pilots that might be there too as well. Having gone through this long ago, it's true, but still there's a degree of passion that I think has to come forth, and you'll know when you see it. And right now, that's not there. So I say let's wait a bit and hear from you again once these key dates are passed and you've been introduced to the material. But I would like you to have the complete freedom to use your expertise and judge for yourself what's best for your students. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I had the privilege of attending your meeting this morning for a little while, and it was actually very impressive. Like I told them, their reputations of professionalism precede them, and they do have a huge responsibility because we're going to be doing science adoption, and this is a huge change for years to come. This is what we're talking about is 912. There's a whole bunch more to this when we're talking middle school and elementary school to get them to the point where it's not all of a sudden they're 7th graders and ta-da, now you have a standalone science class, and it's different. And there are so many things to train them in and getting used to, even, I don't know, lab safety, lab handling, what is a lab, before they get to the high school mode. So this is one piece of that whole big science adoption picture. And I was really impressed by the variety of issues that were brought up by the different teachers. So it's not just a committee of adoption. They're looking at, I guess, the pathways and the different pathways for different academic levels for kids, how all of this is going to come together. And it was really impressive to see how passionate they were about science, but then also about student achievement. It was absolutely clear that they were considering all the variety of things that need to come together for this. This is a brief update. This is where I don't see us being real close to saying that publisher. Because if you do that, that means your pathways are already chosen and we're not there yet. So anyway, yeah, we're going to be relying on you to tell us what you need to bring the kids along in science. And it was great having your presentation with your teachers. Give me the ID, what is it again?
ILC?
Yes.
Very
Yes.
close.
Yeah. And it was great talking to you after the meeting. So, you know, the right people are in place. That is not the question. So, yeah, do your work and let's dazzle the kids. Thank you for your time.
Anything else? Okay, guys, thank you. I'm going to push it. I got last word. One more meeting, I got last word. That's it. So, first of all, I want to thank you guys very much for everything you put in there. And Michelle, pass it along to all the other members that are on there. You guys put a lot of work in this, and there's no disputing that, and we really, really appreciate it. It's one of the things that make Lodi special. I don't want what I've said to be misconstrued. I'm not saying that I want to take anything away from you. I'm actually asking you to do a little bit more, which I know is even tougher. To go ahead and maybe, if you can, give us a couple that are going to dazzle when implemented properly. And if we can, that would be fantastic. All right, and give us a chance to do something with it. Mr. Heberly, I totally agree with you. We're a long way from, and Ms. Castle as well, we're a long way from having a decision on this. You guys have got a lot of meetings left to do and a lot of books to look at. So good luck and thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. We have some highlights for you this evening. I want to congratulate Tokay High School. Their Children-Centered Careers and Occupational Opportunity Academy has been nominated by the State Department for the recognition as a Distinguished California Partnership Academy. This is their children's academy where students are interested in careers with children. And there are only 12 of these programs, partnership academies, that have been nominated to be a distinguished program, and Tokay's is one of them. They'll have a visiting team come and take a closer look to verify that, but congratulations to Jamie Anaforian, who is the coordinator of the program, and Eric Sandstrom and all the teachers who work with that academy. We have pictures for you from the Inclusion Films premiere. This is the Joey Travolta show. Another film premiere, this one was at the Bob Hope Theater, red carpet event. I want to congratulate Liz Astro for working on this and putting this together. You see Joey right there. This time it included students from throughout the county, so not just Lodi Unified students, but there were students from other districts in the county office as well. And it was a very successful event. There's Liz. Mr. Kahn was there. So thank you to Liz and her staff for putting that together. Have another set of pictures here for you. This is really exciting. This is our very first esports team.
That's right. I wanted to see.
Yeah, we talked about this a while ago, and I just want to thank Edith Holbrook and Jeff Palmquist, Eric Sandstrom, and teacher John Medina out at Tokay High School for getting this going. This is one of the few teams in our area. There are not very many schools that have done this yet, but they have had a couple of tournaments thus far. We have a JV team and a varsity team. I went to see the JV's first, I don't know what you call it, a game, a match, a tournament? Tournament. And the amount of teamwork that's required is incredible. They have to work together to compete against the other team. It was a close match. They unfortunately lost their first one, but I think they've learned a lot. The varsity team, I understand, won today. They won in 14 minutes, which I think is pretty quick for this type of event. So these are great kids with gaming, and a great opportunity that we can provide our students. So I'm just thrilled that our folks took on the challenge and got this going. And if you ever want to see something exciting, there's a chair.
That's a gaming chair.
Gaming chair. We even had parents watching it from home. they could log in and see the tournament from home and cheering on their loved ones. So thank you so much, everybody who worked on this. It's going to be exciting for our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Washer. Measure U status report, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before you is an update on where we stand in our Measure U program. I do apologize, somehow the parking lot slide was left out. I tried to send it to the presentation display, but I had the wrong file as well. So my apologies. Each board member got copies of the slide, and then there are also copies on the back table for the community. I won't read every single slide. I'll go through them. So if we go through, these are projects that have been completed with final cost, and I'll get back to what happens to the difference on the final slide. Next slide is projects in construction. So within a day to maybe end of the week, we should get clearance on Tokay High Stadium, and I think it looks fabulous. Maintenance yard is still going through the final stages of bidding, so it is actually out on market right now. Next slide is the 4 larger modernization projects. We are starting to get neck deep into the process of construction, and so we're on the following slide. So the schematic design is in for Lodi High, and we are working with our consultants to figure out next steps. I will alert the board that estimates for the design, and you'll note the budget is $62 million. Go back one, please. Estimates for the design right now are $71 million and $74 million. Now, it is just a schematic design. Part of the cost in that estimate may have something to do with the delivery that we have chosen, that being lease-back for the building. And there's some escalation costs in there that might never materialize. So we may adjust the delivery type to a hard bid. We are talking with our consultants and the lawyers now, but we will try and bring back the particulars and specifics of Lodi High at the 20th board meeting. The other 3 modernization projects are still in design. On to the next slide.
Mr. Khan, could I go back to the, that slide and just ask you really fast, the Houston project, projected budget and so forth, is this, I'm a little confused, is this tied in with CERNA or?
No, ma'am. This is just the Measure U implementation plan for Houston. But since we're moving CERNA, it seemed wise to escalate Houston on the priority list. The bulk of Houston's monies will be spent on parking lot and also ADA modernizations of the bathrooms.
Okay, so no, if we're still on track for CERNA to move this next summer.
We have a DSA submittal date for CERNA. That will be, I think, the 3rd week in December. We are hoping to hear back from DSA within a couple of months to 3 months. If so, then we think we'll be on track for summer. We can't control DSA. If they take 5 months, we will be in a bind. But,
okay, and just, this is a little bit off track, so I'll be brief.
All right.
If you start to sense that there's going to be the DSA delay, I know there are some people that are getting concerned because we're almost upon the new year, and whether or not that move will be possible. So we would be able to know that months ahead of time for sure.
Well, we have soil reports, and we have the design almost complete. So I think we'll make the submittal date. I think we're almost all ready for that, and we can asked our consultants to help along the design at DSA. We are also working with the fire marshal in the area about the water tank. So all those are complicating factors, just not yet. So, but I will keep the board well apprised of the timeline on the Houston site for this. The money for the portable move will not come from Measure U. It will be out of Fund 40, but we will definitely.
And that amount of money is there in Fund 40?
We're trying to get it there. So we've got about 2.6 million of free cash in Fund 40, and then that's it. And so there is a transfer into Fund 40 on the consent agenda tonight as part of changes to adopted budget, and we will probably request more monies as well.
Okay, thank you.
And so again, Lodi High, we have estimates back, and we're probably going to have to make some adjustments, but we will keep the board apprised, and then the other three are still in the final stages of schematic. The fire alarm projects are all moving forward. We did have an issue with the Bear Creek project that's not part of this, but so far design is continuing for these sites. We do not believe any of the fire alarms will be done over the summer as a summer project. What we initially, our initial experience with trying to get bids over the summer is that they are quite a bit higher than allowing crews to work when school is not in session during the regular year. That comes at a cost. There's roughly a $2 per hour add-on for late night work, but it's still substantially lower than trying to compete with every other construction project, every other deferred maintenance project, and every other routine restricted maintenance project that will occur in the 2 months of California summer. So they're moving forward as well. The Lockford parking lot addition, while not part of the Measure U, is, we believe we do have the permit. I think we even know exactly how many plans we must submit to county, so that long road has come to an end, and we have a very nice report for the MAC in December. The stormwater pump station, there may be some additional requirements. We do believe the Army Corps of Engineers designs are all fine, or our designs in front of the Army Corps of Engineers is fine, but we also may need to adjust our designs according to the City of Stockton's plans. Hopefully, I have some in the insurance industry suggesting this may be a wet winter, so hopefully we can get moving on this as well. But we are awaiting response from the City of Stockton. The board may note that this could actually move to a Measure L expenditure rather than a Measure U, but we're actually waiting to see what the effect of the Bear Creek Ag project might be. So at this time, we're waiting to see whether or not we're going to receive grant money to build that project. If we do, then some of the Measure L capital is going to be needed, will be required for that Bear Creek project. This is, I mentioned the unused amounts in the first slide. We have set up an individual resource management in our Fund 23. This is it, the 0900, 8200. The board will see budget transfers of those excess funds. We're calling them unused funds. We felt this was the best way to make recommendations to the board. So rather than the money returning to the general pot, it's going to go into its own resource management code. The board will be updated as to the balance in there and any staff recommendations as to use of that balance. So.
Question?
Yes.
On that resource management code, that fund, so then that would be more of a holding area for the Measure U monies that are remaining from a project.
Correct.
that can be pulled into if another change order or a larger scope is.
Correct.
And, okay, that's just the easier way to maintain it. We know what we've got and we can disperse that. Okay, thank you.
Are you finished up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Comments from the board? Questions? Okay, before I get the questions, well, let's do it now. Any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Susan.
Hello, good evening. Susan Heatherly, 1440 Harris Drive. Many moons ago, or we might even say decades ago, I was on a facilities committee and I just saw the Needham School there, and there was a representative from the city of Lodi who had suggested that they donate the street between the two parts that separate Needham School. And I don't know if that had been explored or maybe it's too late to do that, but, and probably those people from the city have left, but surely would make that a great facility to be able to do that. As you know, St. Anne's was able to close off that area, and that's the school between the church and the school. So I'm just putting that out there. Thank you.
Yeah, at the time, the city offered that to the district. Is that right?
Yeah, they did.
What'd you say?
They offered to give it.
I'm not the city. At that time,
Or the district?
yeah, they said no.
Yeah, we turned it down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, ma'am.
Previous administrations.
Dr. Washington, you?
No, long before.
Not this one.
Long
Hi.
before.
My name is Kristen Vesey, and I'm a parent of a student at Tokay. And I have a question about the field, the facility that Measure U is funding. Is there any type of surveillance system that secures those properties and those projects while they're, I mean, they're millions of dollars? Is there any type of, that keeps them from being vandalized, or?
There is a camera overlooking it. I think the site is, the idea was to release a time elapsed sequence of photographs. Actually, I don't know whether it's a video camera or just a camera. So,
A visual, or, okay.
like a snapshot kind of camera.
It just doesn't make sense to me that we would invest so much money and not protect it. But again, I'm not Measure U and I'm not making those decisions.
Fine, let me respond.
Please.
The board delivered this project by lease back. It's a legal delivery process whereby we don't even really own or control. We own the property, but we've leased it to the contractor, so they're fully responsible for it until they deliver it to us.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, and you raise a very good question, because I drove past Tokay this weekend and there were people on the field.
Well,
Okay, so you're nodding, Mr. Khan, you know about this.
Well, part of Steve Miller's stress level of late is that the bleacher company continued to change foremen on the job. So they sometimes we didn't have enough workers out there, at least according to our contractor, was fuming about it. So that from what I understand, contractor made some phone calls and they were fully crewed up this weekend. There were work trucks up and down Ham Avenue.
No, that's not what I saw. I saw families playing on the field.
Yeah, there were people on the field.
This weekend, which, being an active site, construction site, would be hard for me to imagine. But I think we've had, the JV teams have been practicing.
The field has been released to us.
Okay.
And it's fenced off from the bleachers.
Our football team has been practicing on that field for about a month now, so it has been in use. Also, we have a couple other teams go on it, so it has been being used, and we do have crews on it constantly. So,
but I thought exactly the same thing you did. We've invested all this money. Let's
well, and then I think it would pass on to the school district to be legally responsible if someone got hurt. So therefore, it doesn't matter if it's leased to so-and-so. If they get hurt, they think it's funny to go mess with the equipment. Now, it's a lot of money, and as a taxpayer and a parent, we want our kids safe, and so.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, bring it back to the board. Comments?
Yeah, Mr. Khan, going back to our slide number 5 and 6. So Measure U isn't our only bond source, right? We have another bond source.
Measure L has approximately 9 million in capital in it right now.
And that serves the North Stockton's.
Only North Stockton.
And going on slide 6, you see the 2 million out of Bear Creek, Park Lane, Wagner Hole. Those would all be North Stockton schools that would be eligible for Measure L.
I believe all of these projects are eligible for Measure L expenditures. So if there's a fire alarm upgrade in both Measure L and Measure U, either bond can be used.
Right. And by freeing up that money from Measure U, using Measure L money to pay for the North Stockton renovations, then you could make the $9 million that you need for the Lodi High project, which is also very important and can only come from Measure U funds.
The math works, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And I'm sure you and your staff are looking at all available possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
We're at public board comments now?
No.
Oh, so
this is on Measure U. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the swimming pool at Lodi High. I think we need to come to a point, I think the board needs to talk about this, that are we going to make that one of our priorities is to put a swimming pool at Lodi High. Now, we've talked about it off and on. Now we talked about finding ways to fund it, and I know that it wasn't in the original proposal, but maybe it's time that we put it on a proposal. Their swimming pool is in horrible shape. I can just imagine the water polo players there in 3 foot of water running down the shallow end and using it. It's just, it's not acceptable. I don't think, Mr. Heber, you were saying something about their dive blocks?
I'm not even sure that they can legally use their blocks because the pool is not deep enough, according to the section rules. I don't know that for sure. I've heard that, and it's been kind of a long-standing problem. Obviously.
George, I agree with you. Swimming pool. You know, Lodi Unified has 4 high schools. I know Lodi is the oldest high school in town, but by the same token, we should equalize the facilities as much as possible for Lodi High School. You know, Bear Creek, McNair, it's okay. State-of-the-art swimming pools, Lodi, down the deep end. So my suggestion is that we get started on some type of proposal here.
I would back that.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's why I was asking about that resource management fund. It's all tied together, and I would throw my hat in that ring too, is that pool needs to get going. It needs to move now. We just need to squeeze the money and get it done.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, we do have quite a few community members who are very interested in getting that project done too.
Yes.
Oh, yes, so I've heard.
I hear it every day.
They somehow happen to know the word aquatics family, so. One of the big
I can tell you the very first day as athletic director at Lodi High School, the question came to my office was, are we going to get a new pool? Are we going to square up? I mean, I'm literally the very first days, and so that's been many years ago at this point. The pool is a disaster, and it probably needs to be changed. I know this is kind of flowery maybe, but people in the community are looking at Tokay High School that are using Measure U money to get this nice stadium, redoing their track for maybe the 4th or 5th time since I've been around. And Lodi High School, even though if you look at the Measure U money, is getting a lion's share of the money. What people in the community are looking at are athletic facilities and a pool. And if there's a way of using that secret fund, or is it double secret fund? I'm not sure.
It's going to be double open fund.
Open fund. It probably would behoove us to look into that very seriously, I think.
At this moment, I think there will be approximately 1.2 million that will fill that resource management. We're still, calculating the final numbers, but you will probably see that transfer on the 20th as part of the changes to adopted budget.
So what would be
that
our
would be a start.
process if I've now heard 4 voices? So what would be our next process to move this along a little bit?
We could bring it forward as a project. At this moment, there would be others down the list that would have to be moved back. At this point, I think we have less than 70 million in our Fund 23. Our next bond sale will be either tail end of 2019 or first quarter of 2020. So we can go between 80 million and 100 million then. But with at least Lodi High looking like it's going to be substantially more than the implementation budget, I would love to wait for that. I mean, we can start committing money. I think speaking to the staff at Lodi High, as Dr. Washer mentioned, there's a lot of community interest in this project. So if we can seed it along with money that falls out, or if we can carve money off of, let's say, another project, or we can use Measure L to offset, we can increase the seed money, see where the community will support it, and we might get there quicker than we all believe possible. Or we can just move some projects further down the list and utilize those expenditures now.
Leonard, the community support might have some monies also for that type of project.
Well, we've already been in a lot of conversations. Superintendent gave us permission to talk to the community. Depending on who you talk to, there's either billions or maybe a million or two. But I believe there's money out there. I think that the thing that will, Mr. Neely spoke about a lever earlier. If the district commits money to a pot, and then we start to grow the pot, and then once the community contributes, if we can then come in and double that or triple it, we may be able to find those monies. But we still, if we go back to one slide, this is the bulk of your hard construction, and we still don't know what the real cost of this is yet. I'm optimistic, and we can certainly move expenditures into different funds. I just want to make sure that we're not doing so to overpay for a single project, and I'm not sure the estimates we got are anything less than hyper-conservative, shall I say. So as soon as we find that out, and that could be as early as January and February, we'll either know GMP, guaranteed maximum prices for Lodi High, Tokay, and Needham. We'll have a lot more understanding to start moving money around. But if the board wishes right now, we can bring back a proposal to get started on it as well. The pool, maybe 5 million, 5.5, maybe 6. But the locker rooms and the bathrooms that are going to have to go with that could add $2 million to the total cost of the project. So something to bear in mind.
Would they be separate bathrooms than the gyms they've already got now?
Well, speaking to the site, they would like a placement of an individual structure that's sort of catty corners, mealist gym, the tennis courts, the soccer field, and the pool.
Well, that keeps them out of the gyms.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea to us.
The locker rooms.
But it still would be one small structure project. Whether we could, it would have to go out to bid. So if we don't have a consistent manufacturer bidding for us and competing over an economy of scale, it could, on a per square foot basis, be pretty expensive. And that's what I was saying, maybe upwards of $2 million to get that locker room and bathroom.
I think the idea is, if we don't start looking at it and start moving forward and start committing that that's what we're going to, that's our target, it's just going to be way down the road and it's going to be more users. So I would like to see that come to us with some ideas sooner than later. Anybody else?
Well, I think that what we want to leave, I agree with you, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think what we want to leave here tonight is that I think we've got at least 4 members that say we want a new pool at Lodi High School. So that's the direction we need to start going. And I understand, I mean, if you want to come back in February with something on it, I think that's fine.
Well, we can probably come back with just an initial monetary recommendation on the 20th. That'll get us started.
That'd be great. What works in your schedule? Yeah, that's fine.
7 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You good?
I wanted to mention that.
Give or take 2 or 3, right? The connected pool.
Yeah. One of the problems at Lodi High School has always been lack of real estate. It's just, it's difficult to make the things that we see at Tokay and McNair and Bear Creek because there's just not any land left. But a pool is something that I think is doable with the limited space that we have. I would still like to have a nice stadium for the track, but I'll start with the pool.
We'll buy a great moment.
Yeah. I'm going to be the highly unpopular one and be against this, not that it matters because I'm just one, but when you bring this back, what I would like to see, and I think it's owed to the community, is what would fall to the side and not happen. And because, Mr. Khan, is it true that all the pie in the sky projects, if this was a perfect world that we envisioned with each school, and then of course Measure U would never have been able to pay for everything that would be lovely to have. But aren't there things that we thought we could do with Measure U, and in fact we can't now?
Well, in terms of what the board gave direction on last February, which was the implementation plan, given our financing schedule, given the program estimates, I think we can do everything in the implementation plan. The current bond program actually shows some $20 million remaining in the final bond sale in the 2026 period. But the board may recall these are Prop 39 bonds, which are limited to $60 per 100,000 of home value. So that $60 is comprised of both debt service that's comprised of both principal repayments and interest. And interest rates have doubled in the last year. So as long as housing prices stay high, my belief, my optimistic belief that we'll complete the implementation plan with money left over will come to fruition. If interest rates go up and housing prices soften, then that remaining balance that I just mentioned in the 2026 year will start to shrink. And then there's always the current talk in all of the markets is, hey, you got to pay 20% more this year than last year. I'm not so sure. I'm not an expert in construction markets by any means, but I wonder why the price of lumber is down 50% if things are going great guns. The LAO tells us that enrollment will decline in California through the year 2026 at least. All these are sort of the big macro kind of indicators that, at least for demand for school buildings and facilities, might be something we want to question or at least, analyze deeply before we pay 73 million for a Lodi High as schematically designed right now. So, but right now I'm optimistic. I think the implementation plan gets done. And I think the board will have some flexibility with capital. The real issue is the timing of the projects that follow, because we don't have all 281 million in the bank right now. We've got to sell those tranches periodically. So we can only do so much within, so let's say a 1.5 to 3 year time period.
Okay. And it is not that I'm against it. Both, all my children, all my grandchildren have swam in that pool. And so I know it's many deficiencies, I know that. But I just want to be on record as saying that I would like to know if other things would suffer then because of having diverted money to the pool. Thank you.
Shoot, Bonnie, I've swum in that pool. That's how old that pool is.
13 years of personal experience with that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the agenda. Next thing is comments from the public. I have got one card here from Susan Heberly, who's going to be speaking about learning environment. Let me read this. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda.
I'm sure I could take that 20 minutes. First of all, I want to say I don't see Randy here, but I wanted to say congratulations to Randy Melandro. And then a quick thing, Mr. Neely, when I started teaching, I got a book. And it wasn't a teacher's edition. And it said, one day men will go to the moon. And I'm not kidding. 1979. Okay. Not when men went to the moon, that's when the book was. Yeah, it was a little bit outdated. This is a very concrete kind of suggestion, but I wanted to just say something about the physical learning environment. I was very happy to see that we're talking about painting. I think when a student comes to school the very first day, that the school should look well maintained, the grass should be cut, there shouldn't be weeds all over the place, and the school should look like it's ready for them. And not only look like it's ready, but looks like it was important that they're there. And so, and the same thing with the classrooms. The classrooms should be clean and neat. They don't have to be extraordinarily decorated with all the cute stuff, but they need to be at a level that for every classroom, that the student walks in and says, oh, people took enough time to make sure that this was a wonderful place for me to be. Because that physical environment sets the first tone for the child for the entire rest of the school year. And anybody knows that, if a child's in a messy house, then they're going to be messy themselves. And they're more likely to be neat and clean and responsible if they walk into a place that is like that. So I would like to see a true district-wide, class-by-class effort to make sure that every school and every room is ready to go on the first day. And I think that that's a very concrete thing that we can do. It's not, when we're talking about curriculum and development and teacher training, there's a lot of nebulous stuff, but this is very concrete and very doable. I think that every person should take some responsibility to make sure that that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, moving on.
I thought you had a question, but I know you're not supposed to ask me that.
No, I'm just looking at my agenda here. Okay, next thing is comments from board members. Any comments from our board? Yes. Sir, go ahead.
I'll start with the good stuff. I want to congratulate the staff at Manuel Silva for putting on their Harvest Festival. Had a great turnout of parents and students. I noted a good presence of security. There was a variety of food booths and activity booths. The one that was a big hit with girls was a photo booth with a green screen. They seemed to like that a lot. I noticed that there were Bear Creek High School students manning various booths and interacting with the elementary kids. Stockton PD was there with a K-9 unit. Perhaps the highlight of the night was the Halloween costume, in which I got roped into being a judge, along with Fran Braun, who is the niece of Manuel Silva, which is the namesake of the school. I was glad she was there, so I didn't have to be responsible for picking the 3 winners in 3 categories. No boos were made or anything, so I think we picked the right ones. Also, Lincoln Tech had an open house this last week. There was a lot of examples of what I call hands-on education that are available at the school. So people, there are fire candidates climbing ladders, police baton training. There was building and flying of drones overhead, food services, dental, education, computer skills. Those are great opportunities for our students. One of the things I'd like to see is that these great opportunities be made available more easily to all of our students in the district. I know that you have to get your own transportation to come over to Lincoln Tech, and we do provide busing at times, but if some of those same programs were at the high schools, it would be much better for our students. So that's one of the things I like to see us work on a little bit. This is probably maybe for Ms. Katowski. I was curious on how student trips that are not sponsored by the district are handled. And I know that process has been going on for a long time, and the people have been involved with that. I'm talking about teachers who take kids to Europe or that kind of stuff, and they use an outside agency. I'm just curious, what our district liability is, maybe what our insurance is. I could not find a board policy regarding any of this, but it does go on. And it came to my attention recently, so I was wondering if you could do some little bird dogging for me and find out what policies that we have, and if we don't have anything, maybe we should have something, or maybe we don't need it. But it's something that's come up. And the last thing, Dr. Washer, is I know there's an issue with, I think it was Reese School with their field trips, not wanting to go by a park. Well, I can tell you for a fact that in North Stockton, at Creekside School, we have at least 1 to 2 homeless folks that are living under the bridge on Thornton Road, which is right next to Creekside School. Right behind the wall at Chris McCullough is another place where those folks are living. I have not heard anything about safety issues at all. I'm somewhat concerned about our property at night, and I mean, it's homeless people are everywhere, but I'm not sure that being next to our schools is the best place for them. So I don't know what can be done, but it might be worth talking to Jerry Adams about it and finding out if there's anything that can be done, or if anything needs to be done. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Connexon. Ms. Fritz?
If you thought you saw 2 board members at your varsity football game, there's a good chance it was myself and Mr. Nava. We saw a varsity football game, I think 8 of the 10 weeks, and I got to tell you, we saw outstanding sportsmanship, great competition, great parent support, and you should be very, very proud of your program. Also, it turned out that 2 of our teams ended up with 5-5 records. That was Bear Creek, which is represented by Mr. Knapsack, and the McNair Eagles, which were 5-5 also. Unfortunately, none of our teams made it into the playoffs, but of those 2 5-5, Our first tiebreaker, Mr. Nava, will be league play, would you say? And Bear Creek was in the league,
Right.
3-2, and McNair was 3-2. So McNair won the first tiebreaker. Second tiebreaker will be head-to-head. So, and that was the last game of the season. McNair Eagles beat Bear Creek in a very close battle, 33-30, and McNair took the Lodi championship, informal Lodi championship that we also have. But everyone should be very, very proud of it if you have anyone involved in athletics, especially varsity football. On another note, also, the McNair Eagles played the team that Mr. Nava coached for 25 years, the Stag Delta Kings. We did see that game. It was an outstanding game. The game was decided in the final minute. There were over 80 points that were scored, and unfortunately McNair lost to a bomb, 40-yard bomb that was thrown right down the middle, and covered by 3 McNair defenders, and the receiver caught the ball, and they went ahead. Now, far be it from me as a board member to engage in wagering, but I did notice that this dollar bill fell out of Mr. Nava's pocket when he was walking into the room. So I'd like to return this dollar bill to him. Of course, that has nothing to do with the outcome of the game. But anyway, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas.
I hope that's not violating any law.
Return
not only that, but there's a camera out there too.
Oh my God.
That goes out over the internet. All right, Mr. Heberly.
Briefly, I also want to echo my congratulations to Randy Nalandro. CSEA, he made a great choice. He's a good man. Also, you heard Mr. Connexted talk about Lincoln Tech Open House. Man, if you've never been there, you've got to treat yourself back sometime. I walked into one of the rooms because I wanted to see how the computer repair, I guess. They do a lot of our Chromebook repairs. Hundreds of our Chromebooks get repaired there. And the teacher had, to the students, showing me the insides, the guts of a computer, and how tiny everything is. I've never seen the inside of a computer before. And it was great to see how interested and excited they were to share their knowledge about them fixing the district computers. I mean, they were just, oh, and this little thing here, and I'm going, oh yeah, I had no clue what they were talking about, but I was impressed by how passionate they were and how much fun they were having and the ability to communicate and to share what they were doing. I mean, it was great. There were a lot of people there, and it was really a very nice event. Also, this last weekend was the Lodi Tokay Band Review, which brings in hundreds and hundreds of people into our community, and it's got a long history of excellence. And it's just a wonderful event. So a lot of those things have already been mentioned, so I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
I believe our principal was on the front page, Carlos. The Lodi News Sentinel, for his band review participation.
Grand Marshal.
As a Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal.
Outstanding.
Mr. Nova, everything? Okay. Okay, nothing, and I don't have anything either, so we're going to move right along. At record show that at 8:40 we're getting to the consent agenda A. Is there anything on here that board members would like to pull?
Mr. President, I'd like to pull A9, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dr. Talkin, A9. Anything else? Okay. Are there any items that members of the public would like to pull from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Connexted. Okay, calling for the student vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much. And calling for the board vote, I need something up on my computer here.
Sure.
All right. Passes 7-0. All right, Dr. Talkin, item A9.
Just a question, I'm not sure I'm understanding if the 20 and 21 school year, we're holding Lincoln's birthday observance on Friday, February 5th. Why wouldn't we hold it on Friday, February 12th?
Because we have certain employee groups in the district that ask that we not always observe every single holiday on Monday, because students in special programs are constantly impacted by that. So to not always impact on a Friday, probably for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years in Lodi, the groups have decided to go ahead and space it out. They take President's Day for the Washington Day, and then they go back a week before and take the Friday for the Lincoln Day. All it takes is a resolution of the board. You can move any holiday except for Veterans Day.
So Friday the 12th is not.
Friday the 12th is the traditional Lincoln holiday.
Yes.
But school district can celebrate the Lincoln Day on any day you choose by simply passing a resolution in advance. So that's what they're doing here.
You know, I looked that up in the Ed Code, and I thought the Ed Code actually said that it had to be the week of February 12th.
Unless you do a resolution.
Oh, unless you do a resolution.
You have to do a resolution if you're not doing that. And because we're not doing that, we're doing a resolution.
We're doing a resolution.
Excuse me.
And
1863.
Was
Dr. Talk, anything else?
That's just the point I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Would you like to make that?
I have some.
Okay, comment over here.
I just wonder, has LEA and those folks made any comments about this, or are they on board? Or?
Yeah, all the groups have looked at it and signed up.
That's fine. Okay.
All right, I need a motion. Excuse me, wait, comments from the public?
Yeah. Yes, Valerie?
We're going to have to go by voice vote because we got kicked out. So I wasn't able to pull number 9 off the consent.
Okay, all right, we'll do a voice vote on it. Go ahead, Michelle.
Valerie's experiencing what many teachers experience this week. It has been brought to our attention that I'm not sure who requested the Monday versus that didn't come from us, that there was a problem having the holidays on that. So as I turned to my bargaining chair, that was not something that Leah brought forward as a problem in the past, or when we looked at that calendar. Our understanding is we have a consult only on those calendars, and we consulted on the number of weeks, first semester, second semester, and found a mistake. One was much shorter than the other, but didn't know that there was a change in the holidays on those calendars and that we would have a say in that. And
so what's your position on?
It's a surprise to us. I don't know if it's another group that said having holidays on Mondays was a problem. In my tenure on executive board, that hasn't been an issue that I've heard ever before from Leah.
Right.
It's not been an issue for anybody. It's been sort of a joint agreement between the groups that they were going to do this. There are different employee groups that serve different students on different days of the week to not always impact them on a Monday. This has been what we've done. It's been in place for, I don't know, 15 years.
Was put Lincoln on Friday and Washington on Monday and make it a 4-day weekend.
We've done that before. And Leah's come back to me and told me just what they heard from their members about not having 2 3-day weekends.
Oh.
About 10 years ago.
You just can't please everybody.
You can't please everybody. Whichever you do,
do we need to, excuse me a second, do we need to table this and get a little more discussion? We don't have to make this decision tonight. Is that correct?
You can make it whenever you like. We were hearing from a lot of teachers and employees in the district. They'd like to have the calendar ready.
Would you like a little more time to query your members?
You'll
be able to comment in just a second.
It has gone through executive board, if our understanding is that we can have a say in where those holidays fall, I think we would like to have a say in that. Our understanding was not that, looking at the PD days, it's consult only, not moving anything. So my experience and has not been that we could choose those. So not to my knowledge, so it's news to me.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle. Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
I'm Tammy Williams Acorn, and I'm from John Muir Elementary School, and I do have a comment about that. And I don't know what the, excuse me, I had to help read all the words for the spelling bee today for 90 minutes. No, it's Stockton, so I've lost my voice. I've just had a far-fetched idea for years, but as a school teacher, February is such a short month anyway, and nobody else seems to get Lincoln's Day off except schools. So I don't know why we can't move that to Cesar Chavez Day or someone else in a different month that we should honor, like a famous Californian, instead of, because everyone else gets President's Day for Lincoln's and Washington's. And I end up losing a whole day of teaching 2 weeks in a row, or week 2, or however it's working out. I would rather have the extra day somewhere else in the calendar honoring someone else, since Lincoln is always honored on President's Weekend anyway. So that's my 2 cents worth. I don't know what the legalities are of that, but I mean, I know other people don't actually get that day off, so.
I thought the same thing. That's why I went to the Ed Code and looked it up.
Yeah.
Apparently I was wrong in the way I read it, been corrected by the superintendent.
Yeah, but if we could honor Cesar Chavez or someone else, I think that would be appropriate.
But we have to have something for Lincoln's, that you do. It is. It has to be in February.
It does. The week of February 12th, unless you pass.
I know when he was born, I was there. All right, so board, tell me what you think. Should we can table this?
Well, we can table it, or I can just simply move that we have Lincoln's birthday observed on February 12th.
Second.
I've got a... Okay, so you're amending this. Is that
correct? That the 2021 school year, Lincoln's birthday observance would be February 12th.
February 12th, so that's true.
Mr. Neely, just a point of order. If we have it on the 12th, you do not need a resolution because you're not moving it. And at this point, the calendar has been signed off by groups as presented.
2 calendars.
2 calendars.
You have 2 calendars before you tonight, all reviewed by all 4.
That's right, we do, yeah.
So I withdraw my second.
All right.
I moved to withdraw the second, so you don't have a motion.
There is no motion yet. So we have an option here.
Mr. President, I move we stay status quo with this resolution 2018-63.
So your
I
motion, you move that we approve on May 9th,
Exactly.
basically.
Yes.
Okay. And the calendars have been approved already. And then, Michelle, your point's a good point, though. So let's start this going forward. Okay?
I'll second.
All right. And I've got a second on it, too. Any further discussion on this item? All right, calling for the, oh, it's a voice vote. Okay, we're going to start down here with Ms. Castle.
And I vote yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Show 6-1 approved. All right, moving right along. Consent agenda B, student discipline cases. Students don't vote on this. Looking for a
Chairman,
motion.
I move we approve student consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Second.
Thank you. No comments on this. We'll call for the vote. Consent agenda B is approved 7-0. Other action items. Finally, Lodi Unified School District Board of Education will officially receive the renewal petition from Aspire Vincent Salvi Charter School. Dr.
Thank
Walsh.
you. Mr. Neely, members of the board, this is a point where we're asking you simply to accept receipt of the charter. After this point, then at the next board meeting, representatives from the school will be here to present the renewal charter to you, and you can ask any questions and we'll have public comment at that time. This is simply acknowledging the district receipt of the charter.
Okay. And are you
Yes.
Are you in receipt of that?
After you acknowledge receipt, yes, we are.
Okay, all right. So there's no further discussion on this or anything?
Correct.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
Info, that's an info.
Yeah.
It's an action item.
Looking for?
Is an action item.
It's an action item, yeah.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Did you catch that? Mr. Knackstead motion, Mr. Heberly seconded.
It's an info item.
It's not.
Yeah, it's got an info on the agenda here.
All it says is there's info behind it. That's what that means.
Yeah.
It's action.
It says item.
It's action.
It's
Action
it's
item.
action.
Category, other action item.
Do you need a voice vote on this?
Yeah.
It's an action item, that's the typo that says info.
Okay.
It's an info action.
So are we going to be able to electronically vote? That's the question.
Okay, I'll have to do a voice vote.
Voice vote. Okay, before we move on to voice vote, comments, any comments from the public on this? Any comments from the board? Okay, let's go. Okay, students, preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. How'd the polls go?
It was really fun.
How it was, yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll do that next year. All right, we're going to start down here this time. Mr. Freitas? Aye. Mr. Herbert?
I wanted you to call my name.
He's going to stretch this thing.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Knackstead? Aye.
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 Approved, 7-0. All right, item OAI2, provisional internship permit approval. Mr. McKilligan.
Yes, Mr. Neely, this young lady needs us to approve a PIP for her to be able to be in teaching.
Thank you, Mr. McKilligan. Any comments? Oh, give me a motion.
Chairman, I move we approve professional internship permit.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, any comments from the public? Comments from the board? Preferential vote from the students?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's under other action items. I thought about that too. So we're just going to go with it. All right. Do you need a voice vote on this, or are you going to be able to bring it up? Okay, let's do it. All right. Item passes 7-0. Personnel matters. Ms. McKilligan.
Mr. Neely, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Second, Mr. Nava. Thank you, Dr. Knackstead.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I'm going to be voting against this.
Wait, you cannot, hold on a second, please.
I'm going to be voting against this matter simply because the co-chairman of Measure U, Mr. Sun, is resigning in this, and I hate to see him go. So it's I'm going to be voting against it, so.
Well, thank you for letting us know that ahead of time. I appreciate that. All right. And I understand. I hate to see him go too. Yeah. Okay, calling for the board vote. I think we've got.
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, ma'am, please.
Again, about Mr. Warren's son.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that I will miss him. He and I were involved in some rather dicey projects. Remember the Clements School? Remember
Oh, yeah.
that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it belongs to Clements. And but he was always professional, kind gentleman, and so helpful, except for the time when we were going around some property and there was a big snake in the path. That's when I saw him in a different light. But I will miss him very much. Thank you.
Any other comments? Comments from the public? Okay, calling for the vote. Personnel matters passed. You really did vote against it. 6-1.
And he was a very good dresser.
And he is a very good dresser, that's true. All right. Communications, you're up, guys. Who's going first?
Alright, good evening, President Neely, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I'm Jonathan Henry, I'm the representative for Tokay High School. So, school report. Our homecoming was on 9/28. I'm not going to go into the score of the game. But it was a great evening overall. We had a lot of spirit out there and everything. Our cheer team had a tri-tip dinner. It was a great success. We ordered our cap and gowns for graduation. Our senior shirts sold out that we got for our senior class, so we actually had to order 150 more, and we're predicting that we will sell out of those too. We're going to have our first student council forum tomorrow morning for student reps, where we have our student from each first period class come to a meeting so that we have a more representative body to communicate over school issues. Our field is almost done. It looks really good. The court field is so nice. Our cheer team's been out on it, and it's just great to walk on and see out there. Our student council is planning to paint murals on the sides of some of our buildings because it's kind of a bland gray, so we're like, maybe we'll liven up the place a bit through our fun. Our girls water polo won the TCALS championships and is moving on to sections in the D2 league. Our boys cross country team won TCALS as well. Our esports teams, as Dr. Wash said, lost their first tournament, but they did win their second one today, and it's a great success. Our volleyball team placed third in the league this year, but they were beat out of sections by only 6 points because they tied with Lincoln. Our cheer team will be performing at the Kings game on December 8th at the halftime show, so it's a big thing coming up. Our Tokay Science Olympiad and Science Bowl teams are now practicing. We have a new fashion club on campus. It is run by one of our library staff members, and they're going to be creating new designs and dresses, and they'll be putting on fashion shows at the school. We had a blood drive today. We had over 90 kids sign up, and we actually had so many people come that we had to turn people away. So it was a smashing success. This Friday, Tokay FFA is having a tri-tip dinner fundraiser. We have a flu clinic at Tokay on November 8th, so come get your flu shots. This Friday we are honoring our veterans by having a spirit day. We will be wearing either red, white, and blue, camo, any jackets you have of the Marine Corps, just to honor our veterans on campus. November 14th, our basketball team will be having a barbecue fundraiser. And December 7th, we will be having a Sadie Hawkins dance at our campus in our gym. And that's what's going on in Tokay.
All right, Jonathan, thank you very much. Alicia?
Thank you, Mr. Neely, members of the board. I'm Alicia Townsend, the ASB president of Ronald D. McNair High School, and this is our report. Our after-school program has started back up. Students can stay after school, get tutoring, and receive complimentary school supper. Some of our most popular sessions are the game room, where students can go play video games, foosball, and card games like Uno. Tutoring in the library is also very popular. Students go to get help with their assignments, do research, or use the computers and printers. I and a few of my peers just founded a club at our school, which started a few days ago. It's called CPC, College Preparatory Club. This gives students the opportunity to stay after school and have access to the laptops and receive help from knowledgeable teachers and counselors who are willing to dedicate their time and help students prepare for college. The seniors will be acting as role models to the younger students, like sophomores and juniors, getting them a head start on the college process, giving them the tips that we know. Our student government is currently planning our Snowball, which is our new name for our winter formal. It will be held at UOP, and our theme is Winterfest. The week will consist of spirit days that really bring out the season and the winter holidays. We recently had a band concert held at our school, and as usual, our band's performance was amazing. Our volleyball team made history. They were the first of many to win our first playoff game, and then they lost the second one, but they won the first one. McNair took first place at the Tearing Walls Apart art exhibition that I mentioned last time. They got first for the best interpretation of the theme. This event was led by our teachers, Mr. Cardenas and Mrs. Ortega. And I wanted to give a shout out to all the counselors at McNair for dedicating their time, staying after school almost every day to help students on their path to college. Our cheer team will be collecting socks throughout this month to donate to the homeless. They're trying to get the whole school involved, offering prizes to those who donate the most. The socks are going to be donated to the American Dining Hall. We recently had PSAT testing at our school. I actually found it interesting because we had middle schoolers at our school taking the PSAT test. And it was just amazing to see students starting so young to make sure that they're on the right path to college. And I'm glad our school offers them that opportunity because I know a lot of other high schools, they don't allow middle schoolers or anyone younger to come to their campus and take the test. Our upcoming activities and events, we have our Winterfest Spirit Week coming up, our snowball dance, and we have Hogwarts Theater, which will be taking place on December 8th. Our drama class will be presenting this Harry Potter film, tearing our very own atrium into the Hogwarts campus. For just $12, you can enjoy the play and a complimentary dinner. If any of you guys are interested in going, tickets are on sale now. And that's what's going on at McNair.
You know, I am impressed by you guys. It seems like our reports just keep getting better and better and better over the years. I remember when I first started, it was like, yeah, well, we got a dance coming up. You guys just do a fantastic job. Thank you very much. By the way, I failed to mention that the California School Board Association is holding their annual education convention on the 28th, the 29th, 30th, and the 1st of December. Okay, so 28th and 29th of November, 1st. It's over in San Francisco this year. There is something for student board members on that. I'm going to check into that a little bit more and try to get the information back because I think it would be fantastic if they could go over there and on one day and see some of the things that are going on. It's quite an affair. They have a whole thing there for vendors to show us the new things in education and all that. So, okay. All right, comments from employee group representatives.
Father coming up, Jonathan, did you say Sadie Hawkins?
Yes.
Little Abner was my high school senior play, yes. Do you know Little Abner?
I do not.
That's exactly why I brought it up. It's a cartoon strip that they don't do anymore.
Talk to your predecessor.
Good evening, President Neely, Superintendent Washer, members of the board. I'm Deborah Ladwig. I'm the president of the CSEA chapter here in Lodi. And I just want to thank you tonight for this opportunity to speak. I want to thank you for allowing us to highlight our Boss of the Year. We really enjoy being able to give awards. We give two every year. We have Boss of the Year and then Member of the Year. And you have always been very receptive to our honor, and we really appreciate that. It's great that we get to really, showcase how we feel, and we like to celebrate. We like to celebrate ourselves. We like to celebrate, other people. So it always gives us a great opportunity. We really appreciate that. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what else is coming up. We have concluded bargaining, perhaps. We've come to a tentative agreement. Thank you for your tenacity, your willingness to stick with us and work through our issues. We hope that everything comes out. We'll be voting next Tuesday night, so we will let you know how that comes out. But we appreciate that we were able to really roll up our sleeves and just work hard. And we got to some kind of an agreement. We'll see how everybody feels about it. Let's see, I think that's about it. I can't believe it's November already. I mean, it's today's election day. It seems like we were 100 days away from election, not very far ago. And oh my gosh, and here it is. And then it's going to be Thanksgiving and then New Year's, and then there you go. So welcome to the fun time of the year, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah. If we forget, Merry Christmas. It's coming.
Oh, no, I won't forget. That's for next time.
No Merry Christmases before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
It's board policy.
Well, when you work retail, it comes early. Good evening again, President Heberly, members of the board, Dr. Washer.
We look alike.
Did I say, I'm sorry, Neely. See, I should have gone before Deb because my news is not happy, joyful, celebratory news. And so I'm trying to put a spin on it here, and it's not going to happen. So no sugarcoating. We do appreciate the collaboration the last week with facilities and planning and M&O. I personally talked to Vicki and Mitch about what members perceived and foresaw as a possible safety problem on school sites for today. Now, as teachers, we strongly believe in our civic duty and practicing that and teaching our students to practice that. However, times have changed, and our public buildings, our government buildings, are not suited for this day and age and the safety risks that our students are exposed to throughout the nation. And as you have been so forward-thinking in creating environments and school sites that are more secure and safe than many districts in our state. When I talk to teachers about our campuses, they are nowhere near where we are. With that said, though, today's polling places at many sites was a failure. I received calls the first thing this morning. Gates were propped open. Guards that we hired, my understanding is the district paid for those security guards. County paid for them. They didn't show up. I have sent stuff to Mitch and talked to Vicki. I was appalled when I walked onto a campus, and I am not joking when I tell you the security officer had a cell phone in his hand up to his ear, talking on it. His other hand was covering his head as he was sitting at a picnic table with a cup of coffee. And the gate was 15, 20 feet in front of him, and there were tons of children and adults roaming around. As a person coming onto the campus, wearing my lanyard, identifying myself as a school employee, you can easily tell who I am. I looked around and could not tell who were parents and who were there to go vote. We had 22 sites with polling places. And I really appreciate that we have the ability to have those polling places in our neighborhoods. But as we go forward, I have to tell you, as a teacher, and what I heard teachers say today, and their forethought in trying to plan this out, and I heard that administrators could place those security guards where they felt was important. Those gates were supposed to remain closed. I am still getting members telling me today their gates were wide open all day. They came tonight, the gates were wide open. Our campuses need to be secure. So as we go forward to the next election, in several months, I'm sure Dr. Washer's planning a calendar, I think we need to evaluate whether or not having polling places that gives an opportunity for anyone to create an environment that's unsafe for students while they are on campus has changed. So I would really appreciate going forward that we take a serious look at the safety of that, whether it is a elementary campus, middle school campus, or high school campus. We have said we don't want people roaming our halls without having access. And if the point was to have the security guard, what are you here for? To alleviate the secretary having to buzz each one of those voters in, opening the gate. Having them 100 yards away didn't work today. So as we go forward, let's see if we can do something different that would make sure that we are creating a safe environment for our students to come to school and stay at school safely all day. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for bringing that to our attention. Dr. Washer, kind of look at that maybe.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, there is a law that says that if certain requirements are fulfilled by the registrar of the Office of the Registrar of Voters, that schools must allow them to hold polling places on our facilities. We as cabinet did express concern, the same concerns that have been shared this evening. However, for this year, the train had already left the station and we were obligated to fulfill that commitment. So
I'm thinking going forward. I'm thinking maybe we need to, first of all, write an after-action report on what happened today and push that up to the Registrar of Voters and the, you say they're paid for by the county. Not the County Office of Education, but the Registrar of Voters. Push that to them and tell them that's unacceptable, that they're not providing what's needed. And then kind of take a look at that and see where we can go. We've got some time now before the next one.
I know there was one change, and you taught there, George Oakwood Elementary, we eliminated that and went to the Moose Lodge because all the geeks, and so we moved that to the Moose Lodge. I did go to Manila Silva, I saw a security guy there, also just walking around, you know, everything's loose, but.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll do a little more digging.
Yeah, that's something we need to talk about more. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Additional comments from the superintendent?
Just one, Mr. Lee, members of the board. Another event happening at McNair tomorrow morning. Mayor Tubbs from the city of Stockton will be there to observe some of the classrooms and to talk with some of the students.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. I wish I could be there to that, but I've got previous commitments on that. All right, Board Advisory Committee report. We actually have something on this. Before you get started, I want to say, well, you guys have done a fantastic job, Mr. Freitas, Mr. Nava, Ms. Castle. You guys just did fantastic, I tell you. And the other thing, my God, those comments. I read every one of those twice.
Yeah.
It was impressive. I've got my comments on, but I'll let you go ahead first.
Just one thing, Ms. Castle, before you begin, I do have copies of what the subcommittee drafted. If you want those distributed, I have them.
Oh, yes. Would anybody from the audience like a copy? This is the mission, vision, goals revision. Okay, thank you.
Different than what I saw at home. Is there another one?
Ms. Castle has requested that we have available on the screen a draft that she crafted based on the input, so that might be what you're seeing. But I have the original subcommittee's draft if you want that also.
Oh, you got to go to the next item for this one. Yes. Oh. Go forward one, there's everything. Forward. Oh.
That one is the one that Ms. Castle just submitted.
Oh, no, I don't want that one up there. That, it needs to be the original one. The original, yeah. And do we have that on the, we should have that, yeah. So the very first, yeah, there we go.
No, I believe that's the one that Ms. Castle just, is that the one you just opened? No. Oh. There you go.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, Mr. President Neely was correct. Usually by this time of night, when we get to this, is the very last thing on our agenda always, and usually we don't have a report, and we're packing up and getting ready to leave. So, but tonight this is important, but I don't believe it will take all that long, and I will be brief. But I did just want to give a little bit of history, a very short summary. It was about 2 months ago or so that President Neely appointed the subcommittee to revise the mission, vision, goals, and it had been some time since that had been done. So yes, it was Mr. Freitas Mr. Nava, myself, and I have to acknowledge Superintendent Kathy Washer was extremely helpful. We met twice, and I would say our meetings were highly productive and collaborative. We worked very hard, and we were thoughtful about what we did, and what we found out about Dr. Washer was that she has the best handwriting of any of us, and we had the whiteboard up there, and we revised and erased and tweaked and all of that, and what you have in front of you right now is our finished product, and it is the draft. Yes, and then we got a lot of comments from our staff. We had instructed that our meetings, the 2 meetings that we had, would be held in public, so some of you might have been at those meetings, but also that we wanted staff's input, and so we have that also as an attachment. And Mr. Neely already mentioned the comments and suggestions were terrific. And what was really nice is maybe a third of the comments that we received, people basically just said, we like it. That was it. And no one said, back to the drawing board. But we had lots of very useful suggestions, and so as we discuss this tonight, I'm sure you'll hear some of those. And then before we get started, I just want to say that when we have a final product, and that, I don't know if that will be tonight, but when the final product is all done, it needs to become, and this is my opinion, a living document. It should be posted in all of our schools as a reminder to all of us that we need to walk our talk. And a reminder to the students that we do have guiding principles that we feel very earnestly about, and we want to follow for their chance to have an excellent education. And then finally, please know that the subcommittee has not met since we got the suggestions, so this will be the first time tonight that the 7 of us will talk about suggestions and so forth. And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is my two colleagues that served with me on the subcommittee, Mr. Freitas and Mr. Nava, could we hear your comments to begin with? What are your thoughts now that we've seen these suggestions and so forth? Mr. Freitas, you want to begin?
Well, it was a pleasure working with you and your leadership, Ms. Castle, and with the colleagues. And I think with all the input that we had, pretty proud of this document. So I'm very excited, and I think the comments from the public also reflect that also. So I'll be brief. And Mr. Nava?
No, just, actually, you did change already some things at the top, huh? The one that says instead of ensure, provide?
No.
No?
No, Mr.
That was from the subcommittee.
Oh, that was from, okay, because somebody wrote it in from the, somebody says provide, it says change, use the word provide rather than ensure.
And that was one of the suggestions.
Yeah, that was one of the suggestions, so I thought maybe we had already changed.
No, that's part of the list of suggestions.
We appreciate the comments that they've made. Most of them are legit, and we should really scrutinize them a little bit, maybe make some additions or corrections on them. I also saw where a lot of the people agree that we did an excellent job, and they believe that those are great goals and mission statement, or vision statement, mission statement. But one of them was very wordy, my suggestion is to remove world class. World class. Now we use that
in the vision.
In the vision, yes.
Yes.
There's no, actually, the only thing they said is very wordy. I don't know how you feel about it.
I think the feeling, I think there were a couple people that commented on the use of the term world class as being perhaps too lofty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I have no other comments. I think that, we should go ahead and prepare to get a draft for the board to approve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nava. And I should have also mentioned that in addition to all the suggestions from the staff, both Mr. Heberly and Mr. Knaxfed also had suggestions, and those are noted too on these attachments. Yes. Okay. Someone else? Mr. Nealon?
Yeah, I also made your 2 meetings, and you guys worked well together. I tell you, it was great. A few notes I made from the other things. I agree with some of these. We can't, here's the thing, we can't take everything, and everyone's got a different idea of what this should look like. So what we've got to do is come up with something that fits as much as we can, what Lodi Unified, what its vision is, what we think our mission is. I like our mission statement. It's short, it's to the point. I like the change of putting provide in there instead of ensure. I think that's fantastic. You're right, there were quite a few comments on world class. I think there was about 3 of them on there. I like it. In fact, but I think those were your words, weren't they, Ms. Castle?
Yes, I was the lofty one.
I like it, because that's what we're trying to be. That's that vision. And you can't reduce a vision too small, because vision's a big thing. So I kind of like that in there. A couple of the other things on here. Under goals, the 3rd bullet, one of the statement requests was delete the word that after ensure to read, ensure all students read at grade level by 3rd grade. So I would suggest that. Take the word that out of there. I agree with that on here. Bullet 2 and 4, this is some of the wordsmithing going on. Bullets 2 and 4 begin with the same word. They have a suggestion for that. I like that idea as well. Somebody put, wondering if we should add the word create to the last bullet, which says support an environment in which all students and staff feel safe. It says create and support. I like that. That's a good one. Here's some ones that are good ideas in the comments. It says on the VAPA, Visual and Performing Arts, there were several mentions on this. And one person wrote, just wondering why VAPA gets a separate goal. Maybe a goal that includes more than extra academic classes would be suitable. And they talk specifically about STEAM classes. There were some others about CTE, so maybe that's something that we want to beef up a little bit. Just a suggestion for some people, I kind of agree with that. There were several comments about reading by 3rd grade level. And that was the 3rd bullet down. And I understand that. And there were some comments from 3rd grade teachers there as well that says, hey, I teach 3rd grade, That's going to be really tough to do. But it's a goal, That's the one thing that's why I wanted to see that specifically on here, so we keep that in front of us. We keep it everywhere. So we know that that's one of the things, whenever we make a suggestion, we're trying to get these kids to read by 3rd grade, which will affect and impact the rest of their academic career. Somebody put down about preparing 6th graders for secondary. I don't think we need that. It's a good comment. Some comments about assigning values to the goals. In other words, make it like SMART goals, like percentages and that kind of thing. My vision of this document was that these are goals that we have in general, that we will always have. The annual goals that we make as a district and give to the superintendent, those are the ones that need to have values assigned to them, and they need to coincide with these goals as well. Somebody put down about digital citizenship and information literacy. That's a pretty good idea. Also, somebody put down mention of professional growth. I think that is, to talked about earlier where it says, be the employer of choice of highly qualified, I think kind of fits in there. But the thing that was mentioned more than anything else was good job, all right, and thank you for allowing us to speak on this. So, and I will second that. I think you guys did a fantastic job. So those are my comments. Anything else?
Yeah, I just had one. You saw my comments. One of the things that this board has been working on is CTE, and another one of our current goals is to initiate the implementation of STEM in middle school, in elementary school. And all of that goes along to, in my mind, to the fifth bullet point. No, I take that. Which one? Fourth bullet point, where it's talking about visual and performing arts. I certainly have no problem with visual and performing arts because I was a Baptist student. I did band and choir. And, my mother was in the sing. Oh, I can sing. I was in acapella choir also. So those things are so important. But the only comment that I worried about was if we mention one category of courses, we're kind of subordinating the other courses. I mean, world language is important, math is important, our, ag courses and stuff. And so I look at this instead of just saying VAPA courses, I'm saying, why don't we just wrap them all in and say that we would work towards opening a broad spectrum of coursework for the students. And if you want, you can even list them, but then that gets real wordy. But I think it can be done so that we're giving equal importance to all the different areas of coursework instead of just singling one out. I don't want any of them to think that they are lesser than. Because right now, visual and performing arts is a requirement in high school, so people will take those courses, but obviously they're not in elementary. But anyway, that's why either list them all or don't list any and just say broad course instead.
Mr. Everly, bullet number 2.
Okay.
All right, curriculum and instruction that educates, challenges, and inspire all students.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's
I would
great.
think that would cover all the
Sure.
other.
And I might share some of the thought process on this, and I see your point. Unfortunately, though, in the hard times, the performing arts band, they're the first thing to get cut out of the curriculum. And I think that's really a shame. County Office of Education put on a presentation that's Mr. Knapsack, Superintendent Washer, Mr. Nava, I attended. And it was very interesting. The presenter was an instructor who has national recognition for his teaching skills. But sometimes it's that math class that really, that art class that it pulled him in and appeals to certain students. And then it's a different student that may apply to STEAM or 4 R's of reading, writing, arithmetic, and whatever else. So I think the thought process is that we don't want to see this get thrown out were we to face another budget crisis again. And that it be recognized that these are students of our district and they're very important to be reached out to, as well as all the other CT students and STEM students. But this is a special part of our district and our curriculum that we don't ever want to see lost again.
There might be a compromise here because we've already mentioned that some people thought that could be wrapped into, as Mr. Nova mentioned, the second bullet. But here's just a suggestion, so I'll read this to you. What about, instead of saying VAPA or listing all the other different things there are, to say support school-related extracurricular activities to enhance the development of life skills for students? Would that?
I like it.
That would then journalism, all the sports, all the art,
All
the
that
music,
stuff, yes.
all of that.
Yep, I like it.
Is that considered extracurricular though?
When you look up extracurricular, I had to look that up
Okay.
actually, and it's basically anything beyond the academic core. And I also found out there's no synonyms for extracurricular, because I tried, and there's none. So,
Well, you know, I think what Mr. Freitas was saying earlier is that, you know, sometimes art and band and things is one of the first things that get cut. That's not really true. One of the first things that got cut in the past has been, well, it used to be called vocational classes, now I'm calling it CTE classes. So it looks like Mr. Hibbley and I talked to each other, but we didn't. We both had put down participating in a variety of CTA classes on all 4 comprehensive high schools. Somehow I'd like to see that worked in there to actually be a goal, so it's not one of those things that Mr. Freitas is talking about that gets cut during the budget crisis.
Yeah, if I can make a comment. I mean, you guys are right. Okay, I mean, these things are really important. But whether we have it written here or not is not going to determine whether it's going to be cut during a budget crisis. You know, we all lived through that 2008-10 budget crisis, and my God, that was just horrible.
I retired the right
We
time.
were cutting everything. We weren't. Thank God I was on up there yelling up here. Yelling at Joe. But I agree with Bonnie. I think you either list them all or you say something like that. You know, and I think what you've done there, I think that's pretty good. I like that.
I support the compromise.
And, okay, and I think the way that the draft reads, the only curricular type of thing that's specified is the reading at 3rd grade level, but that is the foundation for all other things.
Right.
So I think that yeah, then we need to, and we don't want to specify anything else beyond that. Do you all agree on that?
I agree.
Okay. All right. And I wanted to comment just a little bit more on the suggestions we had from the 3rd grade teachers primarily. I think were the ones that were saying this, and also special ed teachers. Our choice of ensure, where we say, let's see, where is that? It's, oh yeah, the 3rd bullet. Ensure that all students read at grade level by the end of 3rd grade and maintain strong literacy skills throughout their educational career. What those teachers pointed out is that in fact isn't completely 100% possible for all students. And so I've got another compromise I'll run by you, if you don't mind. What about if we said, provide the opportunity for all students to read at grade level by the end of 3rd grade and maintain strong literacy skills throughout their educational career?
You see, I'll give my opinion on that is I think you stay with ensure. You set high goals, and you always set high goals, and if you don't make it, at least you got close. You got more, you know? So I think ensure is,
Okay.
I think that, to me, that's fine.
I like that. If I take out the word that.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to open up the audience?
Anybody else got any comments? No? Good. By all means.
Okay, yes, thank you. Lori, welcome.
Thank you, Lori Celez. I'm a 3rd grade teacher. So I like it being there, and several different reasons. You're right. The children should be able to read by 3rd grade, but what we've seen happen in recent years is all of our intervention, K2, has been cut. And so by leaving it there, it holds the district accountable and all of us accountable to do something in those early years, and also with the new laws on identifying dyslexia. I have a child who, well, he's not a child anymore, but who was dyslexic, but back when he was younger, we didn't believe in dyslexia, and it did him a real disservice as a teacher. It was difficult to get him help. And so early intervention for dyslexia is K2, and it's critical to identify at that time. So I like leaving that, that ensure all students read by. And like you said, it's a goal. I have a student that I just received that doesn't even know his alphabet. So it's not going to be 100%, but we're going to strive for what we can do. Thank you.
Did you write that comment? Somebody wrote a comment just like that on
I did not.
Is that right?
No.
Another third grade teacher said the same thing. Well, you're going to give us the tools to do it?
Yeah. What happens if they do not?
Thank you, Lori, especially wonderful to hear from a third grade teacher about this, so thank you.
With a secret pen name, yeah.
Crash sheet on it.
I would own it, yeah.
Yes, come on up.
I always follow her grade-wise. I'm, again, Tammy Williams, Incorn at John Muir School, and I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I have, of course, half a class that goes to read 180 for interventions because they weren't reading at grade level by third grade, and I have fourth graders who aren't passing weekly assessments and journeys, so of course I supplement with guided reading groups still with the curriculum, but I would like to see that remediation is placed in that comment or another bullet point that if they're not reading by second grade level or third or however you want to word it, that the remediation is a big priority of the district to fund it because it does make a big difference. And having 30 kids in a class with 15 that got referred to read 180 is very concerning to me, and I'm not at a Title I school now. When I was at a Title I, it was understandable because a lot of my students were bilingual and were still learning English. But I'm at a school that primarily has fluent English speakers, and that's really concerning to me, that they're still coming up 1 or 2 grade levels below. I'm not sure where the problem is, but I am a big supporter of guided reading and phonics intervention, and I'm thinking there's a gap somewhere, so if we can make that as part of that, not leave the remediation piece out, we might see more progress coming up because it is making a difference. Thank you.
And thank you. Martha, can I, before I lose my thought, thank you. All right, so that point is well taken. The question is, in our statement, so I'm going to read it one more time, do we not kind of cover that? So what we have here is ensure all students read at grade level by the end of third grade and maintain strong literacy skills throughout their educational career. That doesn't mention remediation, I know, but is the intent there? What's your thought on that?
The intent is there, and what that is this is what we want to get to, but I don't think we want to get bogged down in the how. That's up to the superintendent to help us there, whether it's intervention, more resources, whatever. That's how I see it. It's just like, the how we get to that goal is up here.
Okay.
Here's a little history on it. This has been the board unwritten goal for several years. We always talk about this as one of our goals. It's never been written. The committee put it down in writing. And my belief is that by that means we do whatever we need to get to that. So the LCAP's got to reflect that, which is going to do what you're saying. That's where you're going to see it at. The things that you're talking about specifically in the LCAP.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, I just also want to emphasize that this is not a third grade teacher issue. This is a school staff issue. And it's not just primary as well. Yes, preschool through third grade is where the emphasis is, but when the schools are developing their after-school programs, their extra tutorials that they get extra money for, their Title I services, that involves any teacher at the school, not just the primary, and certainly not just the third grade teacher.
And in fact, in reference to what Ms. President Neely said, this board has come on like a freight train about remediation. We have insisted on it. We are paying for it. We are the board that started the Read 180, and we're in earnest about that. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of history, solid history in exactly what you're talking about, and thank you.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anybody? Oh, Martha. Martha, come on up. Sorry.
I'm glad you remembered your thought. Good evening, Mr. Neely, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. Martha Steyer, Kristen McAuliffe Middle School. What you're talking about with K3 snowballs. And as you well know, I've been around a while. So somewhere between 1990 when I hired on and the year 2000 when I left Marauda Middle School, when we looked at students who were behind in reading at 7th and 8th grade, they were coming to us with a 4 or 5 reading level. And it's horrifically worse in 7-8. So whatever's down in K3 dramatically affects each and every grade thereafter. And when they're in reading interventions, be they iRead, System 44, Read 180, yay, I'm on Curriculum Council, I know all the names. As they come up, they start losing writing skills in addition to the stuff with the reading. So right now, in my 8th grade classroom, I have kids that are in Read 180 or just have graduated Read 180. We don't have the strategic anymore. And as a result, we have them in gen ed, social science and science classes trying to write the content, and they literally can't do it. So I totally appreciate the goal about K3 getting them to read, but we need to have a study thing, maybe within the Curriculum Council like we used to do study things back in the day, because it's a huge problem. We talk about math challenges, but this is a big issue. We can't have kids getting to 8th grade that can't read, and kids that get to 8th grade and they can't write a paragraph. Thank you.
Bonnie?
Thank you, Martha.
Just a comment with regard to that. When you look at that, ensure all students read at grade level, period. And my reasoning behind that is, yes, we want to read at grade level by the 3rd grade, but that would go through all the way through, that they continue growing in their reading as well as other subjects.
So just like chop it up.
I'm just suggesting that you chop it and have students ensure that all students read at grade level.
Well, I think
It kind of says that.
Yeah. Well, he's saying eliminate the 3rd grade.
Right. But it does say after that, which is a really valid point, maintain.
Yes.
Maintain that. It's not like K3 stop. No more effort. No, you've got to get that continuity of effort.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that grade level, and you remove by the end of 3rd grade, and then you leave in and maintain literacy and so forth. That's what I'm looking at.
I looked at that too. I thought about that same thing. The only thing I think is that 3rd grade, a couple things about 3rd grade. First of all, is you know, the old thing, you learn to read up to 3rd grade, and then you read to learn after that. 3rd grade is kind of pivotal. And so we've got to put as much as we can into some of these younger kids in order to help them establish themselves education from now on. So I prefer 3rd grade in there. The other thing is 3rd grade is the first time we can, we have their testing on this too. We can see it. So anyway, that's my thought.
I'd like to say, can I say something?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Amy Ramsauer, I teach at Beckman Elementary. I've been around since the time of layoff and all those kind of good things. So I've taught K through 3 because I've been moved around a million times. Back in the days before those times, we had great interventions in K2. We had reading recovery. We had CLM strategies that teachers were trained in that we implemented in our classrooms. And then everything happened, as we all know, we all had great cuts. Since that time, we have had 0 interventions in K through 2. So those great and amazing strategies that we were using are lost. And you have now droves of teachers who have come into the district who have never had that experience, nor have they had any kind of training related to that. So when Martha speaks to the fact that, yes, we had discrepancies, but now those discrepancies are even greater, we can thank those cuts for that. Because our little guys, they get nothing. And they're only getting what we can provide in the classroom, and it's frankly not enough. I teach kindergarten right now. I have students who come in, they don't recognize their names, they can't write their names, they don't know a single letter or a single sound. So trying to make up that ground for them, we're halfway through the year, and we're still working on those skills. So we need more support at the K2 level to stopgap some of this, and we lost that in the last 13 years. So something to consider.
Can I ask her a question? Sure. Amy, I've heard about reading recovery for, it's not a new program.
Years?
I mean,
Correct.
A couple of years now. And everything I've heard about it is that it was really good.
It was amazing.
So why aren't we doing
it? It went away with fidelity to the core.
I'm sorry?
It went away with fidelity to the core. And we can have a whole nother conversation about that at another time.
Trust me, there's a couple of us on the board that
Correct.
that's like,
yeah, and I'm sure Mr. Neely remembers because we were on this side of the podium together at that point in time. So
anyway, is that program still around? I mean,
yes, and we still have teachers in this district that are reading recovery trained specialists, but we don't utilize them.
Okay, I was just wanting to see if that was still something that we could always lean into. Okay.
No, I'm gonna try. We got about 10 minutes left for. So those are really good points. But the point we're looking at here is goal. Personally, I think we should leave 3rd grade in there, and I love the addition that you've got on there, and maintain strong literacy skills throughout your education. That's my input. Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Neely, just for clarity of process at this point, would you like another draft to come to you?
No.
No? You want everything?
What do you think? Ms. Castle, are you ready to take the input?
Yes.
Are you ready to take the input?
If you're all comfortable with me kind of tweaking,
sure.
adding what, and I just had, I'm going to add one other word, and I'll just surprise you with it. It's parent. That's all it is. Because that's not in there. And then if you don't like it, you can just draw a line through that. But how about if I do that, Dr. Washer, and then I will send it, I will try to get that done by Thursday and get it to you. And then we are finished?
Yeah, I think we just bring it to the board and we vote on it that night. There's no need to publish anything else, send it out early to us or anything, just regular agenda thing. Is that good?
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. So can you get that done by the next board meeting? All right. Okay, so that's the last item on our agenda, except for a motion to adjourn. So move. Second? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Election results.
I won.